Hey there, and welcome to This Week in Men, where I slip inside the annals of the cultural landscape and give it to you straight. This week, I see, um, these SJW types and these white knights like Kumail Nanjiani. Sorry, butchered his name. Kumail Nanjiani. There we go. But he spouts nonsense like this tweet right here, right? Oh, what's that? Traditional masculinity is a disease? Thanks, Kumail. I'll get right on that. I mean, like, is it? Whose masculine traditions are an illness? Which traditions in particular? All of them? Every single example of male tradition in history is inherently a disease? Well, that's not true. It's intellectually lazy, right? And it's dangerously misrepresentative. The point is that there's different expressions of masculinity that are possible even if you have the same virtues. Okay, so those virtues are what we should be holding on to. So for instance, let's say a virtue of masculinity is generosity. Well, the way in which generosity is enacted might differ, but the goal should be, well, let's be a generous human being, and let's be a generous man, right? So the problem is that there's a tactic employed by those identity politic types out there. We know who they are, and they repeat these sorts of inflammatory and non-specific catchphrases just to whip up anger in those who disagree with what they're saying. And then they turn around and they say, see, look at all these angry men just being angry. Yep, proves my point, right? And that's not, that's not, that's not fair, right? In the same way, you have, let's say, a bad relationship between a man and a woman, and the guy is just riling her up all day long. And then she finally snaps and he goes, see, told you you're crazy. Ho ho. Well, no, you're just being a dick, dude. And of course she's crazy because you made her so. So it's that same, that exact same type of behavior. And it's a garbage behavior for garbage people, right? So just, let's not. But anyways, back to another more modern example. Of how men, even within Western cultures, can express masculinity different, even if they share the same ideas. So we'll look at the sports world, okay, for instance. You see different emergent identities of masculinity, not only through what sports are played, but how they're played. So for instance, let's take a look at European football. Right, soccer. Diving, you can't talk about soccer in North America, at least, without someone talking about, oh, diving, this and that. Well, diving was basically popularized by a lot of the ethnically Mediterranean teams and the Latin teams in South America. And these days, of course, they're not the only ones who dive playing soccer, football, but they certainly popularized it. Now, why is this? Well, historically, across the Mediterranean, there was a premium placed on ideas of guile and cleverness for men. So it doesn't matter how you win, it just matters that you win. So in fact, there's, in some rural parts of Italy, there's sort of an old folk tale, and it essentially concludes that the ultimate man is someone who can steal a sheep from his neighbor and butcher it, invite his neighbor over the very next day for a delicious fresh lamb stew, all the while saying, sucks about your sheep there, Bartholomew, right? So Germanic culture, historically, has no approximate corollary to that, at least not in general. And so they often saw diving as not manly. Of course, that changes, but there we go. So the funny thing, of course, with this whole conversation is that as a man living here in Canada, just talking about soccer at all is deemed unmanly. Here it's about hockey. In America, American football. So to say that all of traditional masculinity is toxic is not accurate. In fact, it's so vague that it effectively acts like a lie. It's a phrase that doesn't mean anything, because there's multiple meanings. There's multiple definitions of masculinity, multiple traditions. That phrase is just an empty way to virtue signal and rile up people who dissent and who don't agree. And riling up dissenters, actually, this feeds into their narrative, because the crux of their idea, the whole point they're trying to get across is that men are traditionally, they're all about power, dominance, aggression, and those types of negative traits. But actual decent men who aren't just simply trying to virtue signal, they have a much different understanding of what it means to be a man. And in future videos, I'll get to some of these ideas and explore them cross-culturally. But of the many virtues of being a man that cultures have, the ones that seem to be most widely held in common across Scandinavia, Northern Africa, the Mediterranean, the Middle East, and others, you've got courage, perseverance, hospitality, generosity, protection. And clearly, these are not toxic virtues at all. They're noble. And I would also argue that even our non-male friends out there should also aspire to possess these types of traits and characteristics, these virtues. But with men who are on average bigger, stronger than women, have more testosterone, which of course does govern and give rise to certain impulses, it's important to try to harness those impulses and direct them in positive ways. Simply by saying masculinity is toxic, those who say that kind of garbage, they just seek to completely shut off that conversation altogether, and cast anyone who disagrees with them as a toxic person, who should be at best ignored or at worst doxxed and removed from society. So to this, I want to say that when you see people spouting that kind of garbage, don't attack them. Just move on with your day as best you can, and talk to people in your social circle, like what I'm trying to do here, and express your misgivings kindly and thoughtfully to those people if you need to, but do your best to not concern yourself with them, and don't listen to them when they try to tell you that you're flawed, because you're not. All you can do is focus on living the positive virtues of masculinity out there, and know that you're doing your best to live these positive virtues. And you're not a bad person for just being a guy. So don't let those blue check marks on Twitter and their ideologue followers make you doubt yourself or doubt what it means to be a man. And how being the best man you can be is in everybody's best interest. All right, I think that's good for right now. I'll talk to you later. Catch you tomorrow.